The numbers don't lie, Alexandra, my sister Victoria said, her perfectly manicured finger tapping the spreadsheet in front of us. Someone's been embezzling funds, and all the evidence points to you. I stared at the numbers, my heart pounding. This wasn't possible. I'd never touched those accounts, never approved those transfers. But there it was in black and white, my digital signature on every questionable transaction. This is insane, Vic, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. You know I would never. Do I? She cut me off, arching one perfectly shaped eyebrow. The rebellious daughter, always pushing boundaries, never quite fitting in with the family image. Who would they believe, Alex? Their perfect daughter who's dedicated her life to the company, or the one who's always been a disappointment? My name is Alexandra Chen, and at 26, I was about to lose everything I'd worked for in our family's technology empire. Not because I'd done anything wrong, but because my sister had finally found a way to push me out completely. Kin Innovations had been built from the ground up by our parents, who came to America with nothing but dreams and determination. They transformed their small tech startup into a billion-dollar corporation, and my sister and I were supposed to carry on their legacy together. At least that was the plan. Why are you doing this? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Victoria had always resented sharing the spotlight, sharing our parents' attention, and most importantly, sharing control of the company. She leaned back in her chair, a small smile playing at her lips. Oh, Alex, you've always been so naive. Did you really think Mom and Dad would let you run half the company? You with your wild ideas about innovation and risk-taking. This company needs stability, tradition. It needs me. I wanted to scream, to grab her by the shoulders and shake some sense into her. But I knew it wouldn't matter. Victoria had always been the master manipulator, the one who could twist any situation to her advantage. And now she had orchestrated my downfall perfectly. They'll investigate, I said, grasping at straws. They'll find out the truth. Will they? She stood up, smoothing her impeccable designer suit. The evidence is quite compelling, Alex. Your digital signature, your access codes, even some very concerning emails from your account discussing offshore accounts. It's really quite thorough. The realization hit me like a physical blow. She hadn't just framed me. She'd been planning this for months, maybe years. Building a paper trail, creating evidence, waiting for the perfect moment to spring her trap. When did you become this person? I asked softly. We're sisters, Vic. We used to be best friends. For just a moment, something flickered across her face. Regret, maybe, or a hint of the sister I used to know. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared, replaced by that cool, calculated mask she wore so well. Business is business, she said simply. And you're bad for business. Always pushing for change, trying to modernize everything, taking risks that could destroy everything our parents built. I'm protecting our legacy. I laughed bitterly. Our legacy? Or your control? She ignored my question, gathering her things with precise movements. The board meets tomorrow morning. I suggest you start packing up your office. And Alex? She paused at the door, that familiar smirk playing across her face. Try not to make a scene. It would only make things worse for you. As she walked away, her heels clicking against the polished floor, I sat there trying to process what had just happened. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd built, it was all about to come crashing down because my own sister had decided I was a threat to her power. That night, I sat in my apartment surrounded by files and documents, desperately searching for something. Anything that could prove my innocence. But Victoria had been thorough. Every trace led back to me, every piece of evidence perfectly crafted to make me look guilty. My phone buzzed. A text from our father. My office, 7 a.m. tomorrow. Before the board meeting. I stared at those words until they blurred, knowing what was coming. Dad had always been about protecting the company's reputation above all else. He wouldn't risk a public scandal, wouldn't want the media getting wind of potential embezzlement by one of his daughters. Victoria had played her hand perfectly. He would offer me a choice. Resign quietly, maybe with a small severance package, or face public humiliation and possible criminal charges. Either way, she would win. As I looked around my home office, my eyes fell on the photos on my wall: graduation day, my first day of the company, family vacations where Victoria and I actually looked happy together. How had we gone from those smiling sisters to this? But among those memories, something caught my eye. An old photo of Victoria and me at a coding competition in high school. We'd won first place, working together to create something innovative. More importantly, it reminded me of something I'd almost forgotten. I booted up my laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard as an idea began to take shape. Victoria might be the master manipulator, but I was the one who'd always understood technology at a deeper level. She might have planted evidence, but every digital footprint leaves traces if you know where to look. For the next 6 hours, I dug deeper than I ever had before. Past the surface-level logs, past the carefully crafted trails she created. If she planted false evidence, there had to be traces of the original data somewhere. At 3 a.m., I found it, a tiny discrepancy in the timestamps of the modified files. Most people would never notice it, but I recognized the pattern. Victoria had used a sophisticated program to backdate her changes, but she'd made one small mistake. The program didn't account for daylight savings time in its calculations. It wasn't much, but it was a start, a thread that, if pulled carefully, might unravel her entire scheme. The question was, did I have time to prove it before the board meeting? I worked through the night, following that thread, documenting everything I found. By the time the sun rose, my eyes were burning and my hands were shaking from too much coffee, but I had something. Not enough to completely clear my name, but enough to raise serious questions about the evidence against me. At 6:45 a.m., I gathered my findings and headed to the office. The security guard gave me a strange look as I walked in. News must have already started spreading. In a company this size, rumors move fast. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt longer than usual. Each floor that passed brought me closer to a confrontation that would change everything. But as I watched the numbers climb, I felt something besides fear and hurt. Determination. Victoria might have orchestrated this whole thing, might have spent months planning my downfall. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me. She thought I would break, would slink away in shame to protect the family name. She was about to learn how wrong she was. My father's office door was closed when I arrived. Through the frosted glass, I could see two figures, Dad at his desk and Victoria standing beside him. Of course she was already there, probably putting the final touches on her performance. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and knocked. "Come in," Dad's voice called out, sounding tired and disappointed. As I opened the door, Victoria turned to face me, that same smug smile playing at her lips. She thought she had won. But I'd spent the night learning something important. Sometimes the best response to betrayal isn't anger or denial. It's patience. Because Victoria had forgotten something crucial about me. I wasn't just the rebellious daughter who pushed boundaries. I was the one who understood technology better than anyone else in the company. And in a digital age, that knowledge was power. I set my laptop down on Dad's desk, meeting Victoria's gaze steadily. Let her think she won. Let her believe I was here to accept defeat gracefully. She had no idea what was coming. The silence in Dad's office was deafening as I opened my laptop. Victoria stood perfectly still, her composure unwavering. But I caught the slight twitch in her jaw, the same tell she'd had since we were kids, whenever she was nervous but trying not to show it. "Before we start," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "I think there's something you both need to see." Dad leaned back in his chair, looking every bit the tired CEO who just discovered one of his daughters was allegedly stealing from the company. "Alexandra, we have the evidence right here. Your sister brought it to my attention last night. The board meeting is in an hour. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be." "The evidence," I replied, turning my laptop screen towards them, "isn't what you think it is." Victoria moved closer, her perfectly maintained calm starting to crack. "We've been through this, Alex. The signatures, the transfers, are forgeries." I cut her off. "Very good ones, I'll admit. But they're not perfect." I pulled up the timestamp analysis I'd spent all night compiling. "Look at these timestamps. Notice anything strange?" Dad adjusted his glasses, leaning forward to examine the screen. After decades of running a tech company, he might not code anymore, but he still understood the technical details when presented with them. "These timestamps," he muttered, brow furrowing, "don't match up." I finished for him. "Because whoever planted this evidence used a backdating program that didn't account for daylight savings time. It's a small mistake, but it's there in every single forged document." Victoria's face had gone pale, but she recovered quickly. "This is ridiculous. You're just trying to confuse the issue with technical jargon." "Am I?" I pulled up another window. Then let's talk about the access logs. Every time these supposedly fraudulent transfers were made, they came from my login credentials. But look at the IP addresses. Dad's eyes narrowed as he studied the data. These are all internal company IPs. Exactly, I said. And where was I during every single one of these transfers? In meetings with clients, outside the building. There are dozens of witnesses who can verify my whereabouts. Someone used my credentials to make these transfers from inside the building while I was probably elsewhere. Victoria's composure finally cracked. This doesn't prove anything. You could have given your credentials to someone else. Or, I interrupted, someone with high-level access could have created a backdoor to use my credentials without my knowledge. Someone like, I don't know, the person in charge of our cybersecurity protocols. The look on Victoria's face was worth every hour of sleep I'd lost. She'd always lorded her position over me, convinced that her role managing the company's security made her untouchable. She never thought I'd be able to trace it back to her. Dad, she started, her voice taking on that wounded tone she perfected over the years. You can't possibly believe. Show me more, Dad said quietly, his eyes never leaving the screen. For the next 20 minutes, I walked him through everything I found. The hidden access logs, the backdated timestamps, the trail of digital breadcrumbs that all led back to one conclusion. I've been framed. There's more, I said, pulling up one final file. I found this buried in the system. A program designed to systematically create false evidence dating back months, and look who coded it. The program bore Victoria's digital signature, her real one, not a forgery. She'd been so careful about planting evidence against me, she'd forgotten to cover her own tracks completely. Victoria's carefully constructed world was crumbling, and we all knew it. But she had one last card to play. Fine, she snapped, her mask of perfection finally shattering. So I planted the evidence. But I did it for the good of the company. Alex has been pushing for all these risky changes, trying to modernize everything without considering the consequences. Someone had to stop her before she destroyed everything you built, Tad. I felt a surge of anger, but kept my voice calm. Is that what this is about? You're so afraid of change that you frame your own sister. I'm afraid of watching our family's legacy get dismantled because you can't leave well enough alone. Victoria's voice rose, her composure completely gone now. All your talk about innovation and modernization, you throw away everything that made this company successful just to chase the next big thing. Enough. Dad's voice cut through the tension like a knife. He stood up slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Victoria, is what your sister's showing me true? Did you fabricate evidence to frame her? Victoria straightened her shoulders, lifting her chin defiantly. Yes, and I'd do it again. Someone has to protect this company even if you're too blinded by her ideas to see the danger. The silence that followed was heavy with decades of family history, of rivalry and resentment, and two very different visions for the future. Finally, Dad spoke. The board meeting starts in 20 minutes. Both of you, wait outside. I need to make some calls. As we stepped out of his office, Victoria turned to me, her voice low and bitter. Congratulations. You won this round. But don't think this changes anything. The board still trusts me more than you. They'll never accept your ideas for the company. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and felt a mixture of pity and determination. You know what's sad, Vic? You're so focused on protecting the past that you can't see the future slipping away. Our competitors are innovating while we're standing still, but you'd rather destroy your own sister than admit things need to change. Change is dangerous, she hissed. Change is what kills companies like ours. No, I corrected her. Fear of change is what kills companies, and right now, you're the most frightened person I know. The next 20 minutes passed in tense silence. Victoria paced the hallway while I sat quietly, reviewing my presentation one last time. I had enough evidence to clear my name, but that wasn't enough anymore. If I was going to save the company, and maybe even my relationship with my sister, I needed to do more. The board members began arriving, each of them giving us curious looks as they filed into the conference room. They'd been called for an emergency meeting about potential embezzlement, but they were about to get much more than they expected. Dad finally emerged from his office, his face unreadable. It's time, he said simply, holding the door open. As we walked into the boardroom, I felt a strange sense of calm. Victoria might have tried to destroy me, but in doing so, she'd given me exactly what I needed, a chance to show everyone exactly who I was and what I could do. The next 2 hours would change everything, for me, for Victoria, and for the future of Chen Innovations. I just hoped I was ready for what came next. The boardroom was silent as I finished presenting my evidence. 12 pairs of eyes moved between Victoria and me, processing everything they just learned. The proof of her deception was irrefutable. The forged documents, the backdated timestamps, the hidden program with her signature. But I wasn't done. What my sister did was wrong, I said, standing at the head of the table. But in a way, she did us all a favor. Because this situation has exposed something far more dangerous than attempted fraud. It's exposed how vulnerable we are to becoming obsolete. I clicked to my next slide, showing our competitor analysis. While we've been fighting among ourselves, clinging to outdated systems and traditional approaches, our competitors have been innovating. They're implementing AI-driven logistics, cloud-based infrastructure, and automated security protocols, and are taking our market share. Victoria scoffed, but I noticed several board members leaning forward, interest sparked in their eyes. The irony is, I continued, the very skills Victoria used to try to frame me, her understanding of our security systems, her ability to manipulate our digital infrastructure, prove exactly why we need to evolve. Our current systems are vulnerable. Our methods are outdated. And if we don't change now, we won't have a legacy left to protect. This is absurd, Victoria interrupted, standing up. She's trying to distract you from her own. Sit down, Victoria. Dad's voice was quiet but firm. Let your sister finish. I pulled up my proposal. The one I'd been working on for months, the one Victoria had always blocked from reaching the board. I've developed a comprehensive modernization plan for Chen Innovations. New security protocols that would have prevented the kind of breach Victoria exploited. Cloud-based systems that would reduce our operating costs by 40%. AI integration that would put us years ahead of our competitors. For the next hour, I laid out my vision for the company's future. With each point, each projection, each innovative solution, I could see the board members' expressions changing. Even Victoria had fallen silent, though I could practically feel her seething beside me. When I finished, Roger Chen, no relation, our longest-serving board member, spoke first. This is impressive, Alexandra, but the costs of implementation would be offset by increased efficiency within 8 months, I finished for him. And that's not counting the new markets we could enter, the clients we could attract. We're losing contracts every month to more innovative competitors. This isn't just about modernization, it's about survival. Dad stood up slowly, his expression thoughtful. I think we've heard enough to make some decisions. First, regarding the false allegations against Alexandra. He turned to Victoria, his disappointment evident. Your actions were not only unethical but potentially criminal. You betrayed your sister and put this company at risk. Victoria's face had gone pale. Dad, the board will need to vote on your future with the company, he continued. But regardless of their decision, you'll be stepping down from your position as head of security, effective immediately. The shock in the room was palpable. Victoria had always been the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. But now she sat there, her perfectly constructed world crumbling around her. As for Alexandra's proposal, Dad continued, I move that we put it to an immediate vote. All in favor of implementing the modernization plan, with Alexandra leading the transition as our new Chief Innovation Officer. Hands went up around the table, one after another. Even Roger Chen, traditionally our most conservative member, raised his hand after a moment's hesitation. The vote was unanimous, except for Victoria. Very well, Dad said, a hint of pride in his voice. Alexandra, you'll have full authority to implement these changes. Victoria, you'll assist with the transition of your department before taking a leave of absence. The board will reconvene next week to discuss the terms of your continued involvement with the company. As the board members filed out, offering congratulations and handshakes, Victoria remained seated, staring at nothing. I paused by her chair. You know, I said quietly, I could use someone who understands our current systems to help with the transition. Someone who knows the weaknesses we need to address, the vulnerabilities we need to fix. She looked up at me, confusion mixing with the anger in her eyes. Why would you want my help? After what I did? Because you're still my sister, I replied simply. And because you were right about one thing, this company is our legacy. Both of ours. I don't want to destroy it, Vic. I want to make it stronger. But I need your help to do it right. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, almost imperceptibly, she nodded. 3 months later, Chen Innovations was in the midst of its biggest transformation since its founding. The modernization was challenging, change always is, but the results were already showing. Our stock price was up, employee satisfaction had improved, and we'd landed 3 major contracts that would have been impossible with our old systems. Victoria and I were working together again, though things were different now. The trust would take time to rebuild, but we found a way to combine her attention to security with my drive for innovation. She even started contributing ideas for improvements once she saw how the changes were benefiting the company. One evening, as we were working late in my new office, she looked up from her laptop. "I never apologize," she said suddenly, "for what I did, for trying to destroy you." I set down my coffee, studying my sister's face. The perfect mask she'd always worn was gone, replaced by something more real, more human. "Why did you do it?" I asked. It was a question I'd been holding back for months. She was quiet for a moment. "I was scared," she finally admitted. "Everything was changing so fast, and your ideas, they seemed so radical. I thought if I could just stop you, keep everything the way it was." Change is scary, I agreed. But it's also inevitable. The question is whether we control it or let it control us. She nodded slowly. "I'm starting to understand that. And I'm sorry, really sorry." I reached across the desk, taking her hand. "I know, just promise me something." "What?" "Next time you think I'm wrong about something, try talking to me first, before you write any programs to frame me for embezzlement." She actually laughed, a real laugh, like when we were kids. "Deal." As we went back to work, I thought about how far we'd come. Victoria had tried to destroy me, but in doing so, she forced both of us to confront the truth about ourselves, about each other, and about what our family's company really needed. Sometimes betrayal can lead to breakthrough if you're willing to learn from it. Victoria had learned that protecting our legacy didn't mean refusing to change, and I had learned that even the deepest wounds could heal given time and the willingness to forgive. Kin Innovations was changing, evolving into something our parents probably never imagined. But the most important change wasn't in our systems or our technology, it was in us. 2 sisters, finally learning to work together, each bringing our own strengths to build something better than either of us could have created alone. As the sun set over the city skyline, casting long shadows through the office windows, I smiled. Victoria had tried to force me out of the company, but instead, she'd helped make me exactly what the company needed. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's proving that success is the best answer to betrayal.